Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive?
Always excited to go deep.
Well, today we're taking a look at emotional intelligence.
Oh, yeah, AI.
EI, exactly, and I think we both did a ton of research for this one.
Definitely lots to dig into.
There is, and it's interesting because I feel like for a long time I just thought of emotional intelligence as like,
Being nice.
yeah, like just being a nice person. But the more we learn about it,
Hmm.
the more it seems like there's really a lot more to it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It goes way beyond just being nice or, suppressing your emotions or anything like that.
So then what would you say is at the core of it? Like, how would you define emotional intelligence?
Well, it's about understanding your emotions, right? Not just feeling them,
Okay.
but actually like understanding where they come from and recognizing them and then managing them.
Oh, so there's like a real element of like self-control in there too.
Exactly. And then even using those emotions productively.
Okay, I like that. So it's not just about like being all touchy-feely. It's about actually like using your emotions as a tool.
Absolutely. It's like having this internal compass.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
It's guiding you towards better decisions, more fulfilling relationships, all that good stuff.
So it sounds like it's really a key ingredient for like self-mastery.
It really is. And, one of the leading thinkers in this field, Daniel Goleman,
Oh yeah, I've heard that name.
he actually argues that emotional intelligence might even be more important than IQ.
Really?
Yeah, when it comes to success in life.
Huh. This is really interesting because we often put so much emphasis on like intellectual ability.
We do, but, our emotions play such a huge role in how we navigate the world
They do.
and how we interact with others.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, so then how do we actually break down emotional intelligence? Like, what are the key components of it?
So Goleman actually outlines 5 key component or pillars of emotional intelligence.
Okay, like the 5 pillars
Of
of,
EI.
got it. Okay.
And these pillars all kind of work together.
Interconnected.
Exactly. They're all interconnected.
Okay, well, let's start with the first one. What is it?
So the foundation of it all is self-awareness.
Well, that makes sense. You got to know yourself before you can
Yeah. Big name.
manage anything else.
It's about being able to accurately perceive your own emotions,
Okay.
understanding where they're coming from, and recognizing how they influence your thoughts and behaviors.
You know, and this is something that I actually struggled with for a long time. I think a lot of people do.
Yeah, it's a journey.
It is like I would just react to things without really stopping to think about why I was feeling the way I was. And then I would end up, you know, saying or doing things that I later regretted.
I think we've all been there.
Right, exactly. So how do we actually develop that self-awareness? Like what are some practical steps we can take?
So one really powerful practice is mindfulness.
Okay, mindfulness.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that.
Yeah, it's all about paying attention to your thoughts and feelings in the present moment
Okay.
without judgment.
So not judging yourself for like,
Not judging yourself,
oh,
just
yeah.
observing. Okay.
So it's like, if you're feeling anxious, just noticing that anxiety
Okay.
and saying, okay, I'm feeling anxious.
Yeah. Yeah.
But not getting caught up in like, why am I anxious or I shouldn't be anxious?
Okay, so it's about just like acknowledging those feelings.
Exactly. And that can be really hard at first.
Yeah, my mind tends to race.
Yeah. But the more you practice, the easier it gets.
So you're saying like even just taking a few minutes each day to just like sit and observe your breath.
Or do a body scan meditation.
Okay.
That can really start to increase your self-awareness.
Okay, well, I'm definitely willing to give that a try.
Yeah, it's worth it.
All right, so we've got self-awareness. That's the first pillar.
Right. What comes next is self-regulation.
Okay, so that's like once you're aware of your emotions.
Then you have to learn how to manage them.
Okay, and that sounds especially important when you're dealing with like difficult or challenging situations.
It is because if you can't regulate your emotions, you're much more likely to react impulsively.
Right, and that can lead to all sorts of problems.
Yeah, exactly. So self-regulation is about choosing how you respond
Okay, instead of just like,
instead of just reacting.
okay, so for example, if someone cuts me off in traffic,
Right.
instead of like laying on the horn and getting all angry,
Road rage.
exactly, I could try to like take a deep breath and just let it go.
Exactly. You're choosing a more constructive response.
Okay, I like that. So self-awareness, then self-regulation. What's the next pillar?
All right. So this one is all about motivation.
Okay, motivation.
Yeah.
So like that drive to achieve your goals.
Exactly. And it's interesting because our sources actually highlight how self-regulation is really closely linked to motivation.
Oh, how so?
Well, think about it. If you're constantly getting swept away by your emotions, It's going to be a lot harder to stay focused on your goals.
Right, because you're constantly getting distracted.
Exactly. But if you can manage your emotions effectively,
Okay.
you're going to have more energy and willpower to devote to what really matters to you.
That makes sense. So it's like self-regulation frees up your mental bandwidth to actually pursue your goals.
Exactly. And it helps you stay resilient in the face of challenges.
Okay, resilience, that's a good word.
Because, let's face it, you're going to encounter obstacles along the way.
Oh, for sure.
But if you have that inner drive, you're more likely to bounce back from setbacks and keep moving forward.
I love that. So we've got self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation. They're all interconnected.
They are.
And they all contribute to that sense of like self-mastery.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what's next? What's the fourth pillar?
So the fourth pillar is empathy.
Empathy.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
so being able to understand and share the feelings of others.
Exactly. It's about putting yourself in someone else's shoes.
And I think this one is so crucial, especially in today's world where it's so easy to get caught up in our own little bubbles.
It is. And, one of our sources actually made a really interesting point about empathy.
What's that?
They said that it's not just about feeling sorry for someone or trying to fix their problems.
Okay.
It's about truly listening and trying to understand their perspective.
Okay, so it's more about like deep understanding.
Yeah. And acknowledging their emotions, even if you don't agree with them.
That's a good point because sometimes I think we try to jump into problem-solving mode
Yeah.
before we've even really taken the time to just hear the other person out.
Exactly. And that can actually make things worse.
It can, because then the other person feels like they're not being heard.
Exactly.
So empathy is really about creating that space for genuine connection.
It is. And it's such a powerful tool for building stronger relationships.
It is, and I think it's something that we can all work on developing.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've got 4 pillars: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy.
All right. And the fifth and final pillar is social skills.
Social skills. Okay, so this is about like how we interact with others.
Exactly. It's about using your emotional intelligence to build and maintain positive relationships.
Okay, so it's not just about being like the life of the party or being super extroverted.
No, it's about using your understanding of emotions to navigate those complex social dynamics.
Okay, so for example, if you're in a conflict with someone,
Mhm.
instead of just like shutting down or getting defensive,
Right.
you could try to use your empathy to understand their perspective.
Exactly. And then you could use your communication skills to try to find a solution that works for both of you.
Okay, so it's about using all those other pillars that we've talked about to actually like navigate those real world situations.
Exactly.
Okay, well, this is all starting to make a lot of sense.
But
But, I have to say, it sounds like a lot to keep track of.
it is. But remember, these pillars, they all work together.
Okay, they're interconnected.
Exactly. They're all interconnected.
So it's not like you have to master one before you can move on to the next.
No, they all kind of build on each other.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yep.
So then how do we actually put all this into practice? Like, how do these 5 pillars actually translate into that self-mastery that we were talking about earlier?
That's a great question. And I think that's where things start to get really interesting.
Okay, well, let's dive into that then.
Let's do it. Well, when you think about self-mastery, it's all about taking control of your inner world, right?
So your thoughts, your emotions.
Yeah, all of that, it's about responding to life's challenges with intention and clarity.
Instead of just reacting on autopilot.
Exactly. And that's where EI really comes in.
Okay, but how does it actually equip us with those self-mastery superpowers?
Well, one of the most immediate benefits is enhanced decision-making.
Okay, so we make better decisions.
Better decisions because we're more aware of how our emotions might be influencing us.
So like if I'm feeling really stressed out, I might make a decision that I wouldn't normally make.
Exactly. You might act impulsively or you might avoid making a decision altogether.
Okay.
Huh.
EI helps us to like step back and assess the situation.
Exactly. It gives you that space to pause and consider all of your options.
That makes a lot of sense.
And there's actually some really interesting research on this. Yeah. One of our sources cited a study where they found that participants with higher EI scores consistently made choices that were aligned with their long-term goals,
Oh, wow. So even when they were tempted to like,
even when they were tempted by short-term rewards.
okay, that's pretty powerful.
It shows that EI can really help us to make decisions that are in our best interest.
So it's not just about like feeling good in the moment.
No, it's
Yeah.
about making choices that will lead to long-term happiness and fulfillment.
Okay, I like that. And what about stress? Does EI help us with that too?
Oh, absolutely. Stress management is another huge benefit of EI.
Okay, because I feel like stress is just like a constant in modern life.
It is, and our sources talk about how people with higher EI are often better equipped to recognize those triggers that send their stress levels soaring.
Okay, so like those things that just set you off.
Exactly. And once you know what your triggers are,
Hmm.
you can start to develop strategies for managing them.
Okay, so like if I know that I always get stressed out when I have a big deadline coming up, I can maybe try to like break down the project into smaller chunks.
Exactly. Or you could try practicing some relaxation techniques like deep breathing or meditation.
Okay, so it's not about eliminating stress altogether.
No, because stress is a natural part of life.
It is.
But it's about having those tools to help you cope with it.
Okay, so it's about building that resilience.
Exactly. It's about being able to bounce back from setbacks and keep moving forward.
You know, one of our sources actually used a really great analogy for resilience.
Oh, what was that?
They said it's like a rubber band.
Okay.
The more resilient you are, the more you can stretch and bend without breaking.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, it really paints a picture.
It does. And there's actually a fascinating study mentioned in our sources that looked at how people with high EI respond to criticism.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, they found that instead of getting defensive or shutting down,
Which is what I tend to do.
a lot of people do, but people with high EI are more likely to view feedback as an opportunity for growth.
Oh, that's such a valuable skill.
It is, especially in the workplace.
Yeah, imagine being able to receive constructive criticism without letting it crush your confidence.
Right. And it goes beyond the workplace, too.
Yeah.
Having that resilience in your personal relationships can make all the difference.
Oh, yeah, for sure, because conflicts are inevitable in any relationship.
They are, but if you can approach those conflicts with a growth mindset, you're much more likely to come out of them stronger.
That's a great point. And that actually brings us to another key benefit of EI.
Which is...
Its impact on our relationships.
So absolutely.
Because when you can understand and empathize with others' feelings, it just makes communication so much easier.
It does, and it helps you to resolve conflicts peacefully.
And build stronger connections.
Exactly. And, one of the things that stood out to me in our sources was this idea that empathy is not about feeling sorry for someone or trying to fix their problems.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's about truly listening,
Yeah.
trying to understand their perspective, and acknowledging their emotions,
Even if you don't agree with them.
even if you don't agree with them.
That's a good point, because I think sometimes we can get so caught up in our own heads
Yeah.
that we forget to actually see things from the other person's point of view.
Exactly, and that can lead to a lot of misunderstandings.
Yeah, for sure. So empathy is really about creating that space for genuine connection.
It is, and it's so important for building healthy relationships.
Okay, so we've covered how EI can help us make better decisions, manage stress, build resilience, and even strengthen our relationships.
That's a lot.
It is, but I have to be honest, it all sounds like a lot of work.
It can be, but the good news is that there are a lot of practical strategies that we can start implementing today.
Okay, so where do we even begin?
Well, one of the most powerful practices is mindfulness.
Okay, mindfulness.
Yeah, it's all about paying attention to your thoughts and feelings in the present moment without judgment.
So just observing.
Exactly. And I know you mentioned earlier that you've tried mindfulness meditation before, and you said that you sometimes struggle with the whole clearing your mind thing.
I do. My thoughts tend to race.
Yeah, that's totally normal.
Okay, good.
Mindfulness isn't about stopping your thoughts altogether.
Okay.
It's about noticing them without getting swept away by them.
Okay.
It's like watching clouds drift by in the sky.
Okay.
You observe them, you acknowledge them, and you let them pass without judgment.
Okay. That makes it feel a lot more approachable.
Good. I'm glad.
What are some other strategies that can help us boost our EI?
Another helpful tool is journaling.
Journaling. Okay.
Yeah, writing down your emotional experiences can help you identify patterns,
Oh, yeah.
understand your triggers, and track your progress over time.
So it's not just about venting your feelings.
No, it's about using journaling as a tool for self-reflection and discovery.
Okay, that makes sense. And as you start to understand your own emotional landscape better, you can start to experiment with different techniques for regulating those emotions.
Exactly. So, for example, if you notice that you tend to get overwhelmed in social situations,
Right.
you might try practicing some deep breathing exercises or positive self-talk beforehand.
And those are techniques that can help us in the moment as well, right?
Absolutely. It's about having those tools in your back pocket so you can access them whenever you need them.
I like that. And remember, developing emotional intelligence isn't a solo mission.
Oh, that's a good point.
One of the most valuable things you can do is seek feedback from trusted friends, family members, or mentors.
Absolutely, because they can often see things that we can't see in ourselves.
Right, like our blind spots.
Exactly. And as you start to implement these strategies, remember that developing EI is a journey, not a destination.
Oh,
There will be setbacks along the way, moments when you feel like you're taking 2 steps back for every 1 step forward.
so we shouldn't beat ourselves up when we make mistakes.
Absolutely not. In
Yeah.
fact, those mistakes can be some of our greatest teachers.
Okay.
Embrace those moments of imperfection, learn from them, and keep moving forward.
That's such a reassuring perspective. It takes the pressure off the idea of achieving some kind of perfect emotional state.
Exactly. And that brings us to one of the most important points made in our sources, the idea of cultivating a growth mindset.
A growth mindset.
Yeah, it's about believing that your emotional intelligence is not fixed,
Oh, yeah.
but rather something you can continue to develop and strengthen over time.
So it's not about being born with some innate talent for empathy or self-regulation.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the process of learning and growing.
Exactly. And that learning can happen in so many different ways through reading, taking courses, attending workshops, or even just observing how people with high EI navigate the world.
It's like we're all on this lifelong quest to become more emotionally intelligent beings.
I love that way of thinking about it.
Me too. And as we embark on this quest, it's helpful to see how EI plays out in real-life situations.
Oh, for sure.
Our sources highlight a few specific scenarios like leadership relationships and personal challenges.
Okay.
Let's explore those a bit further.
Yes, let's get practical.
Okay, so let's start with leadership. Our sources talk about how effective leaders are often those who demonstrate high levels of EI. But what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, imagine you're leading a team through a challenging project, right? Instead of just like barking orders and expecting everyone to fall in line, an emotionally intelligent leader would take the time to understand each team member's strengths, weaknesses, and motivations.
So it's about recognizing that everyone brings something unique to the table and creating an environment where those individual talents can shine.
Yeah, exactly. And, that same principle applies to navigating conflicts. An emotionally intelligent leader wouldn't shy away from disagreements, but would actually see them as opportunities to understand different perspectives and find creative solutions.
It's about fostering a sense of psychological safety where people feel comfortable expressing their opinions and concerns without fear of judgment.
Exactly. That's so important. And it brings us to the realm of relationships. Our sources emphasize how EI can be a game changer when it comes to building and maintaining healthy connections with partners, family members, friends, all of that.
One of the things that really resonated with me was this idea of using empathy to bridge those inevitable communication gaps that arise in any relationship.
Oh, absolutely, because we all come to relationships with our own baggage, right? Our own triggers and sensitivities.
Right, and instead of getting defensive or taking things personally, we can use empathy to try to understand where the other person is coming from.
Exactly. It's like putting on those empathy glasses and seeing the world through their eyes, even if we don't agree with their perspective.
It's so powerful.
Yeah.
And that ability to step outside of our own ego and truly connect with another person's experience is at the heart of what makes relationships thrive.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, so we've talked about leadership and relationships, but what about those personal challenges that life inevitably throws our way? How can EI help us navigate those difficult moments?
Well, imagine you've just experienced a major setback, right? Like a job loss or a health scare. Instead of spiraling into despair or self-pity, an emotionally intelligent person would allow themselves to feel those difficult emotions without judgment.
So it's about acknowledging the pain and the disappointment without letting those feelings consume you.
Exactly. And once those initial waves of emotion have subsided, they can start to tap into their resilience and problem-solving skills.
So it's not about pretending everything is okay, but rather about finding that balance between honoring your emotions and taking constructive action.
Exactly. And that's where self-regulation and motivation come into play. Instead of getting bogged down in negativity, you can use those challenges as opportunities for growth and self-discovery.
Listening to all of this, I'm struck by how intertwined emotional intelligence is with our overall well-being. It's not just about achieving success or building strong relationships. It's about cultivating a sense of inner peace and fulfillment.
It really is, and becoming the best version of ourselves.
This has been such an illuminating conversation. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
My pleasure.
I feel like I have a whole new toolkit for navigating the complexities of life. And to all our listeners, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to embark on your own journey of emotional mastery. Remember, it's not about perfection, but progress. Every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to unlocking your full potential. Until next time, keep diving deep and stay curious.